Greetings, Christian Israel. Pastor Eli James here with part 3 of our 3-part series exposing the fact that the Caucasian people are the Israelites of the Bible, the Jews are imposters, and that in the final end time situation in which we are living right now, we have to identify who Mystery Babylon is. And as I alluded to in the previous 2 segments, the vast majority of Christian theologians and even Jewish theologians, since the Jews do not refer to the New Testament and do not consider it legitimate scripture, from their perspective, that of course they are expected to teach about Mystery Babylon, and which is also referred to as Mammon in the scriptures. Mammon is simply the materialistic world system which controls the world economy. It's also referred to as Mystery Babylon in the scriptures, and we're going to identify the board of directors of Mystery Babylon. And I have to say right off the bat that it is a real black mark on the eye of Christian theologians. Virtually every denomination simply ignores this subject. But is a subject of vital importance to every Christian to understand who his oppressor is. And if you do not understand who your oppressors are, and if you falsely support your oppressors believing that they are your saviors, then you are simply going to be a victim. You're going to be a slave to the existing system, as most people already are. We are economic slaves to Mystery Babylon. And most Christians are simply waiting to be raptured. That's another false doctrine the mainstream churches teach today. There's not going to be any rapture. Jesus says very plainly, it shall be as in the days of Noah in chapter 24 of Matthew, and that we will have world convulsions of tremendous proportions, and the vast majority of Christians will be deceived by the Antichrist, as Paul tells us in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and also Revelation 12:9. The vast majority, the whole world will be deceived by the Antichrist, and that includes the Christian world, especially the Christian world, because they're following the Jews in their impersonation of Israel. They're sending all their donation money to the bandit state of Israel, which is the largest warmongering state on the planet, encouraging the United States and the Arab world to go to war with each other on their behalf, while they stand by and collect the profits. So the Israeli state is nothing but a gigantic parasite, a gigantic black spot on the surface of planet Earth. It's the center, a focal point of evil. It's the focal point of evil. But that's where Mystery Babylon resides, and also in the banking houses of London and New York and other places around the globe, because it's these banking houses that are controlling your life right now. And Barack Obama just donated $2 trillion of your money to support these banking houses, and these banking houses are actually enslaving you. They're enslaving you. They've got the entire world into debt slavery, and none of your media pundits are telling you these things. They're telling you that this banking system must be preserved at all costs, but this banking system is coming down, folks. It's coming down, just as the Mystery Babylon in the book of Revelations is going to be destroyed by Yahweh. It's going to be destroyed by Jesus Christ at his second coming. So this is the subject for today, Mystery Babylon. And the story begins in the book of Daniel. I'm going to start quoting from Daniel chapter 2, verse 31. And this is the image of the 4 beasts. Thou, O king, sawest. He's explaining to Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, what the image that he saw in his dream means. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, and his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken into pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. Now, here is Daniel's exact interpretation of this dream as he just described it. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of heaven hath he given into thy hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So this four-part image from the book of Daniel chapter 2, we are told right here very clearly that Nebuchadnezzar and his kingdom of Babylon is that kingdom of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, forasmuch as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things. And as iron that breaketh all these, it shall break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of the potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, forasmuch as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. So what is the second kingdom? The second kingdom is the chest and arms of silver, and this kingdom is the one that succeeded Babylon, and that is the kingdom of the Medes and Persians. And the image divides this vision into two parts, the arms and breasts. So each arm represents one of the kingdoms, the Medes on one side and the Persians on the other. Then the third kingdom after this is the belly and thighs of brass, and this is obviously, and this is a general interpretation by most Bible scholars. The belly and thighs of brass is Greece, and there's simply no doubt that Greece is the third image of this picture. And then finally the legs of iron and feet of iron and clay represents Rome. And historically we have this succession of empires: Babylon, the Medes and Persians, Greece, and Rome. And the text goes on to say that whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And this is talking about Rome. And Rome, of course, the legs of iron represent the infantry, the Roman infantry marching across Europe, the territory of Mesopotamia. They went as far as Britain and set up their kingdom in Germany and parts of Europe. So we're talking about the Roman infantry marching across the territory that they subdued. And then the feet of iron and clay represent the fact that once the Roman Empire was through with its expansion and began to settle down as a stable empire, what happened was that the Roman Empire began to decline in its own corruption, and this would give us the image of feet of iron and miry clay. The Roman Empire became stuck in its own mud, and eventually through corruption and deceit, assassination politics in the latter days of the Roman Empire, it finally declined and was overthrown as well. Now the final image of this vision talks about the stone kingdom. The stone kingdom is actually the kingdom of Jesus Christ, which was begun during the days of the Roman Empire, which is not firmly established yet because it's going to take two advents. The first advent simply redeemed the people of Israel so that they would recognize their Messiah. And the second advent is to actually establish the government of the kingdom of Israel. And let's see what we have to read here in the book of Daniel, verse 44. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, and the brass, and the clay, and the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, that the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. What is this stone kingdom? Well, let's turn to the book of Isaiah. Chapter 9, verses 6 and 7, where we are told this. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. At this point, I have to say that in keeping with the prophecy of Paul at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, the prophecy of the great apostasy of Christendom before the second coming, the Christian world has abrogated its responsibility to establish honest, just government. Of course, the United States of America was the first Christian republic, and our founding fathers were all Christians. Even Thomas Jefferson was a Christian. He was not a deist, as people constantly slur him with that appellation. The fact is that Thomas Jefferson actually produced his own Bible. He was actually so upset with Paul because he interpreted the message of Paul as being antinomian. That is, he believed that Paul did not teach that the law was to be maintained. Of course, this is a Christian republic based upon law, folks, upon God's law. Common law is based upon the Bible. Biblical law and common law and the United States Constitution are intimately connected, and the United States of America, as we saw in part 1, is actually the reestablishment. It's the New Jerusalem. It's the reestablishment of God's kingdom here on earth. Now, of course, our people haven't realized this yet and have abrogated their responsibility to maintain Christian government under God's law. And that's exactly what the book of Revelation tells us in chapter 21, that the 12 tribes of the children of Israel will establish God's kingdom right here on earth. We're not talking about pie in the sky, by and by, when you die you go to heaven. No, that's not what the Bible's talking about. It's talking about establishing His government right here on earth. Let's continue with Isaiah chapter 9, still in verse 6. And His name, we're talking about Jesus Christ, and His name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Verse 7, of the increase of His government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon His kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth and even forever. The zeal of Yahweh of hosts will perform this. Now we see in the modern world that the Christian denominations are standing by watching Mystery Babylon take over total control of their nations. When Judge Roy Moore tried to keep his monument to the Ten Commandments standing, not a single major denomination stood at his defense, because the Ten Commandments, folks, are God's law. And the Founding Fathers believed in the Ten Commandments, all of the Founding Fathers, directly, not implicitly, directly stated to us that they were motivated by the Bible, by the Christian Bible, in the founding of this nation. And anybody who says otherwise is a liar. It's simply the case that that person is a liar. And so anybody who teaches that the law has been abolished is also a liar, and that is not the case, because you cannot have a kingdom without law. A kingdom must be based on law. And Colossians 2:14 is totally misinterpreted by the televangelists who keep on telling you the law has been done away with. That's an absolute lie. That verse is telling you that the handwriting, the writ of the decree, the indictment against the children of Israel for disobeying His law, that was nailed to the cross, not the Ten Commandments. Read that verse for yourself and you will realize that that verse is simply talking about the indictment, the writ, the handwriting. Whenever you're